"You know nothing. You're just a cleaner." The arrogant CEO shouts, until the cleaner proves him wrong and destroys him in front of millionaire investors. The scent of disinfectant had been a part of Elena Rodriguez's skin for so long that she no longer noticed it. At 58, she woke at 4 in the morning to cross New York City by bus and subway, leaving behind the minuscule apartment in Bushwick, Brooklyn, where she lived with her 22-year-old daughter, Julia, an administration student at a public university. 2 hours of travel, packed subway cars, delayed buses, then, finally, the mirrored tower of Apex Strategy Group emerging among the high-rises of Midtown Manhattan like a monolith of glass and arrogance. Elena arrived when the automatic lights were still flickering in the empty lobby. She passed the night guard, Mr. Jean, a 65-year-old man who always greeted her with genuine kindness, a rarity in that environment where most executives didn't even lift their eyes when they passed her. She took the service elevator. 23rd floor. There, in that space where executives decided the fate of millions in international contracts, she was merely the navy blue silhouette who emptied waste baskets overflowing with crumpled papers, polished conference tables with products that left her hands dry and cuticles bleeding, and wiped down windows overlooking a city she helped keep clean but which never saw her in return. Invisible, disposable, a piece of the corporate scenery no one truly looked at. But Elena Rodriguez carried a secret that the cleaner's uniform hid, as well as the scars of a lifetime spent fighting the social invisibility imposed on dark-skinned black women like her. A secret that slept in a deep corner of her soul, buried under 15 years of silent humiliation and survival at any cost. 15 years ago, Elena had been a senior systems analyst at that very company, back when it was called Legacy Systems Incorporated and occupied 3 modest offices in Long Island City, before the glamour and the glass-walled headquarters. A graduate in systems engineering from MIT, with a postgraduate degree earned through immense sacrifice, she had become an internal reference point. Her talent for deciphering complex systems, predicting operational crises before they occurred, and creating elegant solutions to seemingly impossible problems had earned her respect. She lectured at conferences. She mentored interns. She wrote technical reports that became company standards. Then came 2012, the brutal acquisition. Foreign investors bought Legacy Systems Incorporated and transformed it into Apex Strategy Group, moving to Manhattan, hiring executives with Stanford and Wharton MBAs and surnames that sounded good in meetings with European clients. The new management, obsessed with modern profiles and market image, swept the old guard clean. Elena was laid off at 43, too late to start over in tech, where companies preferred recent college graduates who accepted lower salaries. Too early to give up on survival, with a 7-year-old daughter to raise alone after her husband, Robert, a city transit worker, had died in a traffic accident 2 years prior. She tried. She sent resumes to dozens of firms. She went to interviews where she noticed the glances sliding over her dark skin, her age, her peripheral address. 25-year-olds interviewed her with thinly veiled condescension. "How long have you been out of the market? Ah, your knowledge must be outdated." The severance package ran out. Bills piled up. Desperation came knocking. That was when Elena made a choice that burned her dignity like acid. She returned to the same company, now through the service entrance, through a third-party cleaning agency. With a slightly different name on the employment records, Elena Maria Rodriguez became Elena M. Rodriguez on the documents, a difference subtle enough not to trigger alarms in the HR department. No one in the new management recognized her. After all, executives don't remember the faces of employees they deem inferior. And the old Legacy Systems Incorporated, with its faces and memories, had been completely erased from Apex Strategy Group's official history. For 6 years, Elena cleaned the same hallways she had once walked down with an executive briefcase tucked under her arm. She emptied waste baskets from the office that used to be hers. She polished the conference table where she had presented brilliant projects. And she stored the pain in a secret corner of her soul, buried beneath the necessity of putting food on the table for Julia. Blake Sterling was everything Elena would never be and everything she, deep down, pitied herself for not being. 42 years old, perfectly cut, subtly graying hair from a salon that charged the equivalent of her monthly salary. Light skin, a WASP surname that opened doors and made secretaries answer calls with deference. Italian suits swapped daily. A Swiss watch worth more than Elena's apartment. Blake had taken over Apex Strategy Group 3 years ago through family connections with Marcus Sterling, the company's primary investor and his paternal uncle. Not through technical merit, not through proven experience. His administration degree was from a third-rate private university, but no one questioned it. The surname compensated for any CV deficiency. His management style was based on inspirational presentations copied from corporate self-help books, colorful PowerPoints, and the systematic outsourcing of real problems to external consultants who charged fortunes and delivered generic solutions. Blake collected imported sports cars. He had 4 stored in a climate-controlled garage in Greenwich, Connecticut. He talked about them constantly, comparing models as if they were trophies of his competence. Management is like driving a Ferrari, he often said in motivational meetings. You need to feel the engine, anticipate the curves. Empty metaphors that impressed superficial investors and deeply irritated the technical team that actually kept the company running. But over the last 8 months, something was rotting in Apex's foundations. An optimization algorithm for processes that Blake had personally approved, without understanding the code, merely relying on promises of quick profit from a vendor named Nexu. S Solutions, a tech company owned by his cousin Felix Sterling, was generating catastrophic failures in major client systems. Multi-million-dollar contracts with banks and telecom companies were threatening rupture. Lawsuits loomed on the horizon like vultures. The board of investors, led by an experienced 60-year-old woman named Dr. Margaret Stein, had set a 6-month deadline for reversal or replacement of leadership. Blake was sweating. He started spending nights in the office, surrounded by charts he didn't grasp, pressuring the VP of Technology, Daniel Foster, a competent 34-year-old engineer who genuinely understood code but lacked the courage to confront his boss. The pressure corroded everyone. Crisis meetings became routine, and time was running out like sand. The explosion happened on a humid March afternoon. Elena entered the main conference room to empty the trash during a crisis session. It was 4 o'clock, a time she would normally be cleaning another floor, but Marcia, the cleaning supervisor, had called in sick and Elena was covering the extra shift. She pushed the glass door carefully, trying to be invisible as always. 8 executives sat around the enormous table. Blake at the head, tie loosened, face red with frustration. Daniel projected red loss graphs onto the giant screen. Numbers dropping, lines breaking. Camila Diaz, the CFO, a 40-year-old blonde woman, nervously tapped her pencil on the table. Richard Alves, the operations manager, repeatedly ran his hands over his face. Everyone spoke at once. Clients are canceling contracts. We've already lost $2.5 million in 3 months. The algorithm keeps generating infinite loops. None of the external consultants could identify the primary flaw. Elena moved silently through the room, emptying bins. But her eyes, trained by decades of systems analysis, unintentionally captured the code projected on the screen. And she recognized it. Immediately, like a musician recognizes a dissonant note in a symphony. A recursion error in the central module. A basic, classic fault. Any programmer with 5 years of experience would spot it. The problem lay in a specific line of code that called itself indefinitely under certain conditions, creating a processing black hole. It was so obvious that Elena almost felt pity. Without thinking, in a moment of forgetting who she was performing to be in that environment, she murmured softly as she passed the screen. You just need to adjust the sequence of priorities in the kernel, add a stopping condition to the validation loop. Silence fell upon the room like a blade. Blake slowly spun his chair. His face, already red from stress, contorted into a mask of fury and deadly humiliation. He needed a scapegoat. He needed someone smaller than him to crush and regain a sense of control. And there she was, cleaner, daring to offer an opinion on technology in front of his executive team. You, he bellowed, standing up so abruptly that the leather chair spun empty behind him. He pointed his finger directly at Elena. You know nothing. You are just a cleaner." His voice ricocheted off the glass walls. The 8 executives turned to stare, some with discomfort, others with that passive cruelty of those watching a public execution without intervening. Blake strode toward her, invading her personal space. He was 6 inches taller. He used it. "We here pay international consultants, people trained at Stanford and MIT, to solve problems that simple minds like yours cannot even comprehend. And you think you can offer advice? You who probably barely finished high school. Know your place and clean this room in silence." The executives chuckled. It wasn't a laugh of joy. It was that nervous, uncomfortable titter people give when they witness cruelty but lack the courage to intervene. Camila looked down. Richard coughed. Daniel turned pale but said nothing. Elena lowered her eyes. She squeezed the strap of the black trash bag until her fingers hurt. She bit the inside of her cheek. Every cell in her body screamed to answer, to explode, to reveal who she really was. But 15 years of surviving in invisibility had trained her reflexes. She swallowed the dry humiliation. She nodded slightly. She walked out of the room, stepping on her own shattered pride, feeling 8 pairs of eyes burning her back. The glass door closed behind her with a soft mechanical sound. Elena walked to the staff restroom at the end of the hall. She locked herself in. She leaned her hands on the sink. She took a deep, trembling breath. She looked at her reflection in the fogged mirror. A dark-skinned black woman, graying hair pulled back in a tight bun, eyes red from contained humiliation, calloused hands gripping the edge of the sink. Cleaner. That was all the world saw when it looked at her. But inside, deep inside, where the humiliation couldn't reach, something began to burn. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. Lying on the pull-out couch in the living room of the tiny apartment, Julia had the only bedroom. She stared at the cracked ceiling. The wound of humiliation stung, yes. Every word of Blake's echoed. You know nothing. Simple mind. Know your place. But something bigger burned stronger. The absolute technical certainty that she knew exactly how to save that company, and that they deserved to sink for such blind arrogance. Julia slept in the bedroom, exhausted from a day of classes and night shifts working call center support to help with the bills. Elena looked at the closed door. She thought of her daughter, of the daily struggle, of the opportunities Julia deserved and that the world kept trying to deny her. And she made a decision. She couldn't simply offer help. Who would believe a cleaner who claimed to be a systems expert? The humiliation would be doubled. She needed a different strategy. She needed intelligence. She needed to operate in the shadows until she amassed enough power to emerge into the light and reveal herself irrefutably. Elena got up from the sofa at 3 in the morning. She sat at the small dining table that also served as Julia's desk. She pulled out an old notebook. She began to plan. In the following days, Elena changed her routine. She started staying late at the Apex Strategy Group offices, long after the executives departed, leaving technical documents scattered across desks. Mr. Jean, the night guard, would greet her with that gentle smile. Need the overtime, Elena? I know how it is. Life's hard for everyone. That's right, Mr. Jean, she replied, avoiding details. But Elena wasn't staying for extra money. She was staying to photograph. Technical documents left on tables. Reports forgotten in printers. Code specifications scribbled on whiteboards. She used Julia's old phone, a model with a decent camera that her daughter had kept after getting a used upgrade. She clicked discreetly. She archived everything in a password-protected folder. At home at night, she spent hours studying the material, putting together the complete puzzle of the crisis. And what she discovered was worse than she imagined. The technical flaw was only the surface. There was something deeper. The problematic algorithm had been hastily approved, skipping testing stages, because Nexus Solutions, the vendor, had promised results in 3 months when serious consultants estimated 6. Why the rush? Was someone profiting? Elena began connecting the dots. Blake had personally approved the contract with Nexus Solutions. The company was small, with no history of large projects. But the CEO's name, Felix Sterling. The surname repeated itself. She searched public social media. She found photos. Blake and Felix at family barbecues. Cousins. A scheme. A kickback disguised as a corporate contract. Elena felt the weight of the information. It wasn't just incompetence. It was white-collar crime. 2 weeks after the public humiliation, Elena created an anonymous email, externalobserver.systems@gmail.com. She carefully drafted a detailed technical analysis of the algorithm's central problem. 3 suggestions for emergency corrections, explained step by step as if it were a recipe for anyone with a minimal understanding of programming. She sent it to the general inbox of the technical directorate. Subject: Solution for optimization algorithm failures. Sender: External Observer. Daniel Foster, the VP of Technology, opened the email one Thursday morning. He read it with initial skepticism. Another charlatan wanting to sell consulting? But something in the text intrigued him. The technical language was precise, specific. The person who wrote it truly understood the system. He tested the suggestions in an isolated environment, working until 3 in the morning Friday. The corrections worked perfectly. The infinite loop was broken. The system breathed again. Daniel was stunned. He tried to reply to the email, but the sender did not respond. They had simply sent the solution and vanished. First minor reversal. In an emergency meeting Saturday morning, called because a major client had threatened to terminate their contract that week, Daniel presented the corrections to the restricted board. Blake, Camila, Richard, and 2 technical managers. They all pored over the projected code. They tested it live. It worked. Client systems began to stabilize. Blake felt the ground return beneath his feet. But his nature was predatory. In a gesture of desperation disguised as genius strategy, he stood up and declared, "These solutions are the fruit of my new personal analytical approach. I spent the last few weeks profoundly studying our systems, consulting international literature, applying methodologies I learned in recent executive courses." Daniel opened his mouth to correct him, but Blake shot him a look of deadly warning. "Isn't that right, Daniel? You implemented the strategic directives I gave you." Daniel swallowed hard. He nodded. He knew that contradicting the CEO publicly meant termination. Yes, the strategic directives. Camila and Richard exchanged skeptical but silent glances. Everyone knew Blake could barely open an Excel file, but no one had the courage to challenge him directly. The news reached the investors. Dr. Margaret Stein, the principal investor, called personally to congratulate Blake. "Impressive. You've earned 2 more months of reprieve. Prove you can maintain this recovery." Blake hung up and smiled to himself. Savior. Hero. Genius. Elena watched everything from the shadows. She cleaned the conference table where they celebrated his false triumph. She listened to the comments. She felt something warm and bitter rise in her throat. It wasn't exactly rage. It was a cold, methodical, almost scientific determination. She would continue helping the company survive. But she would not let that man indefinitely usurp what wasn't his. She had a plan. If you've ever lived the pain of being invisible, of having your knowledge ignored just because of the clothes you wear or the color of your skin, leave a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon because this story of justice is just beginning. And in the comments, write one word: invisible. I want to know how many of you understood this woman's pain. The anonymous emails from the external observer became frequent. Each one demonstrated deep knowledge, not just technical but historical, of the company. References to projects 10, 12, 15 years old. Methodologies that the old legacy systems incorporated used. Internal processes that only someone who had lived inside the company during those traumatic years would know. This began to deeply bother Blake. In a meeting with Daniel, he slammed his hand on the table. "Who the hell is this invisible expert? How do they know our systems so intimately? It could be corporate espionage, infiltrated competition, hackers trying to blackmail us." Daniel tried to calm him. "They're helping us, not harming us. For now," Blake snarled. "But what if they want something in return? What if they are collecting privileged information? I want you to investigate this. Track the emails. Hire IT security. Whatever the cost. Second minor reversal. It was Mr. Jean who nearly exposed Elena first. One April dawn, she was in the technical archives room, photographing old reports dated from 2008 to 2012, the period when she officially worked there. She needed concrete evidence of her own trajectory for the right moment. She was so focused she didn't hear the footsteps. You stay late studying those papers, don't you? Elena froze. She turned slowly. Mr. Jean stood in the doorway, brown uniform, keys jingling at his waist, a gentle expression on his wrinkled face. She couldn't speak. The phone in her hand, documents scattered, caught red-handed. But he simply smiled with that simple kindness of someone who sees humanity before social status. My daughter also goes to college at night. I know how tough it is. Studying after working all day. It's hard, but we overcome. Elena realized he had misinterpreted the scene. He thought she was studying for a course, using company material as an informal academic research source. A kind interpretation. She seized it. Yes, it's a course I'm taking. I need this material for my final project. Your secret is safe with me, he winked. You can relax. I won't note in the logbook that you stay after hours. That way you won't have trouble with the supervisor, right? Elena nearly cried with gratitude and relief. Thank you, Mr. Jean. You are very kind. Those of us who live below the waterline have to help each other. Elena, the ones up top step on us. But among ourselves, we support each other. She gained an unexpected ally. Someone who would discreetly start warning her when executives returned outside of hours. Watch out, Elena. Mr. Sterling is coming back. I think you better leave that room. Protecting her without knowing exactly from what. Just out of class solidarity. In the third month of this invisible dance between Elena and Blake. She sending solutions, he taking credit. Came the turning point that would completely change the dynamic. Third medium reversal. Number 1. Daniel Foster began to grow seriously suspicious. The external observer's solutions were too specific. They contained references to programming methodologies that Legacy Systems Incorporated used between 2006 and 2011, before the merger. Ancient frameworks, nomenclature no one else utilized anymore. It was as if the person behind the emails had lived inside that company during an era the current management preferred to forget. Daniel was 34. Graduated in computer engineering from NYU in 2010. He had been an intern at Legacy Systems Incorporated briefly in 2009, before accepting a job at a startup. He returned to the company, now Apex Strategy Group, in 2017, hired as a manager and promoted to VP in 2020 based on real technical competence. He had never forgotten his internship, especially a technology conference in 2009 hosted by Legacy itself, where he met brilliant speakers. One of them, a black woman, a senior analyst who presented on adaptive systems, had changed the way he thought about code. He had kept her course material for years. He used it as a reference even now. Now, reviewing the external observer's emails, Daniel recognized fragments of that methodology. He opened old files saved on the company's historical server, a section no one accessed. He found technical reports from 2007 to 2011. One name repeated itself as the author of brilliant analyses. Elena Santos, original name. He searched LinkedIn. Nothing. He looked up public records of engineers graduated from MIT. He found her name on a 2001 list. He cross-referenced this with old internal HR records, accessible only to vice presidents. He confirmed. She had worked there from 2004 to 2012, laid off in the restructuring. Then, on the current list of outsourced employees, he found Elena M. Rodriguez, cleaner, morning and afternoon shift, contracting company, Clean Pro Services, ID document with photo. It was her, 15 years older, graying hair, tired eyes, but it was undeniably the same woman from the old internal photos. The 2009 speaker, the senior analyst. Daniel felt the world spin. He checked the night cleaning access logs provided by building security. Elena stayed in the company late into the night, often alone in the rooms where the most sensitive technical documents were discussed. The realization hit him like breaking glass. One May morning, Daniel waited for Elena in the 23rd floor hallway. 7:30 a.m. She arrived pushing the cleaning cart to start changing the trash bags in the executive offices. "Elena, we need to talk." She stopped. She turned pale. She looked around. The hallway was empty. "About what, Dr. Foster?" "About who you really are." He gently held her arm, preventing her escape. He kept his voice low. "I know who you are, and I know what you're doing." Elena felt her legs weaken. "I don't know what you're talking about." Elena Rodriguez, senior analyst from 2004 to 2012, expert in adaptive systems, speaker at the 2009 Tech Conference. "You were my mentor at that event. I was an intern. You changed my career." A tense pause. Elena stared at him. In his eyes, there was recognition, respect, and something akin to guilt. Daniel continued, "I know who the external observer is. Thank you for saving my career, because the work I've been presenting as my own to the CEO is based on your analysis. I was afraid of losing my job. Blake is, you know him, and I was a coward. I'm sorry." Elena couldn't speak. Tears burned her eyes but didn't fall. Years of iron control over her emotions. Daniel looked around, ensuring privacy, then whispered urgently, "But there's something worse you need to know. The CEO isn't just lying to the board, taking credit for your work. I found internal audit documents for the initial approval of the Nexus Solutions contract. The reports were falsified. The quality tests never happened. Blake consciously approved defective software because the vendor is his cousin. A disguised kickback. If the investors find out, it's not just his job that goes down. It's the reputation of the entire company. All of us. Lawsuits. Possible bankruptcy. Fourth medium reversal. Number 2. Elena wasn't just saving a company out of wounded pride. She was sitting on a ticking time bomb of corporate corruption that, upon exploding, would destroy not only Blake but hundreds of innocent jobs, including hers, including Julia's future. Daniel pulled her into a smaller conference room, locked the door. He opened his laptop. He showed her scanned documents, emails between Blake and Felix Sterling from 18 months ago, discussions about compensation for process acceleration, bank transfers disguised as strategic management console, ting to a personal account of Blake's totaling $75,000, 10 times Elena's annual salary. "How did you get this?" she whispered, horrified and impressed. "I'm the VP of IT. I have access to servers Blake doesn't even know exist. He's technologically illiterate and arrogant. He never imagined I would investigate." "Why are you showing me?" Daniel took a deep breath. "Because I'm also guilty. I presented your work as mine. I lied to the board. If this blows up, I go down with him. I need a way out. You need one too. We can help each other." It was a delicate alliance, built on mutual self-interest disguised as justice. Daniel would provide official access to the documents. Elena would assemble the complete technical case proving both Blake's incompetence and his corruption. But they needed time. The investors had scheduled a surprise audit for 6 weeks away, the first week of July. 6 weeks, Elena repeated. To build a case that destroys a CEO protected by a multimillionaire investor who is his uncle. Can you do it? Elena thought of Julia, of the monthly bills, of the humiliation of March still burning, of the 15 years of invisibility, and she answered, "I can." Blake, meanwhile, became paranoid. He hired a cybersecurity firm, SecureNet Solutions, to track the anonymous emails. The team worked 2 weeks tracing IP addresses, without success. Elena used a free VPN server accessed from different internet cafes for each send, a technique she learned in digital security courses back in the day. He began to distrust everyone, especially the most competent managers who might threaten his position. In a tense board meeting, he bellowed, "The traitor who is passing information outside or playing anonymous savior will be professionally destroyed when I find them. I will sue for breach of contract, NDA violation, corporate espionage. I will make this person an example of what happens to those who challenge my leadership. Elena was cleaning the table at the back of the room. She felt his gaze slide over her and move on, without truly seeing her. She was still invisible, cleaner, irrelevant, her perfect disguise. But the clock was ticking. For weeks until the audit. Fifth medium reversal. Number 3. The unexpected connection came through Julia. During dinner on a Saturday night, pasta with tomato sauce, a cheap meal they stretched into lunches for the week, Julia casually commented about college. "Mom, my group project partner, Isabella, is such a drag. She keeps complaining about her uncle all the time." Elena chewed distractedly, thinking about code. Her uncle is the CEO of some tech company. She says he's turned Sunday dinner into hell because he only talks about crisis, bankruptcy, layoffs. He keeps yelling at the family. Isabella hates him. Elena stopped chewing. "What's her name?" "Her last name. Isabella Sterling." "Why?" Her fork dropped onto the plate. "Mom, are you okay?" Elena tried to control her voice. "Sterling, that's the last name of the CEO at my company." "I think it is." She said his name is Blake. He works in a glass tower in Midtown. Julia continued chattering, but Elena barely heard her. The world had gone muffled. Blake's niece, a 22-year-old taking administration in Julia's class, was doing a group project with her daughter. The coincidence was absurd. Or perhaps New York, despite its size, was smaller than it seemed when you circled within the same spheres of public universities frequented by young people from the lower middle class. Elena began asking careful questions. Julia, suspecting nothing, recounted Isabella's complaints. Blake was planning mass layoffs of the older technical team. He would hire cheaper foreign consultants, outsourcing everything. He would publicly blame the old guard for the crisis. Isabella knew because she overheard phone conversations during Sunday family dinners. Perfect scapegoat, crushing the competent technicians who threatened him and bringing in disposable people without institutional memory who wouldn't question decisions. Elena felt her tongue turn bitter. It wasn't just about her. It was about destroying people who actually kept the company running to save his own corruption-stained skin. Through Julia, she began extracting more information, discreetly, using her daughter as an unconscious bridge. Isabella, resentful of her arrogant uncle, gossiped without filter. Elena put the puzzle together. The clock sped up. 3 weeks until the audit. Elena worked 18 hours a day. She cleaned in the morning. She pretended to be cleaning in the afternoon while photographing documents. She studied code until dawn, assembling the complete technical report. She slept 3 hours, woke up at 4, started again. Her thin body lost another 5 pounds. Julia started to worry. "Mom, are you eating enough? Are you sick?" Elena lied. "Just tired, honey." Picked up extra shifts. Her hands, chapped from so much cleaning product, bled at the cuticles. She stuck on band-aids to hide them. But her eyes shone with the flame of someone who finally had a purpose greater than survival. Daniel provided confidential documents via flash drives left hidden in designated locations, behind the printer in the IT room, inside the deactivated third-floor toilet tank. Corporate espionage games worthy of a movie, ridiculous and thrilling at the same time. Sixth medium reversal. Number 4. Then came the near catastrophe. Blake discovered that someone was accessing confidential internal audit documents using Daniel's credentials. The digital security system flagged access outside of hours to classified files. Midnight, 3 in the morning. Confrontation in Blake's closed office. Monday, 10 a.m. 2 weeks until the audit. "Are you betraying me, Daniel?" Blake pounded the desk. "Someone accessed restricted files with your login. Documents about internal auditing that contains sensitive information." Daniel went white. Sweat ran down his forehead. I access from home sometimes, when I need to solve urgent problems." "Liar." Blake spun the monitor. He showed the access log. "These files have nothing to do with operational technology. They are administrative, financial, About the Nexus Solutions APRO. Well, why are you digging into this? Daniel tried to deflect. I informally hired an external consultant, a freelancer, an expert in process auditing. I gave them temporary access to review our systems and find improvements. It was poor technical judgment on my part not to ask for formal authorization first, but it was to help the company. Blake studied him with reptilian eyes. What's the consultant's name? Where do they work? I want to meet them. He's discreet. Works only remotely. Bring him to a meeting. In person. I want to hire him officially. 72 hours. Daniel. If this mystery consultant exists and is good, I will pay him generously to join our team. If you are lying. Blake leaned forward, voice low and lethal. I will destroy not only your career but sue you for breach of confidentiality. Scrape you clean to the bone legally. And you know I have lawyers more expensive than your apartment. The trap was set. 72 hours. Produce the external consultant or admit the lie. Daniel left the office trembling. He went straight to the emergency stairs. He found Elena on the 18th floor cleaning restrooms. It's over, he whispered desperately, leaning against the wall. He wants to meet you, personally. If I don't produce someone, he'll fire me and investigate until he finds the truth. If I invent a third party, he'll check and get to you anyway. There's no way out. Elena felt the weight of more than 15 years of invisibility pressing on her chest. Her hands, inside the blue latex gloves, trembled. But she looked Daniel in the eyes and replied with a firm voice for the first time since they began that alliance. Then it's time for me to show up, but on my terms. 7th large reversal. Number 1. Elena revealed to Daniel that she had physical proof of her past. Original documents from when she worked there. Technical reports printed and signed by her, stored in boxes in the closet of her Bushwick apartment all these years. She had never managed to throw them away, despite the pain, because they represented her stolen identity. Photos at old corporate events, ID badges, certificates from internal courses, and most importantly, she had mentored Daniel at the 2009 conference. He was an intern then, she a senior speaker. Daniel had been impressed by her presentation on adaptive systems. He had kept the course material as a reference for life. He used that methodology even today. You, Daniel whispered, shocked by the full connection. You were the engineer who changed the way I thought about code. That lecture on adaptive architecture with controlled recursion. I still have your handout saved in a folder. How did you fall so far? Elena explained. The brutal restructuring of 2012. The age, race, and gender bias that pushed her out when investors decided the company needed a new face. Code for young, white, male. The fruitless struggle to find reemployment in the field. Recent widowhood. A small daughter to raise. Money running out. The devastating choice to return to that very company through the back door, with slightly altered documents, a uniform that made faces interchangeable. Daniel faced a moral bifurcation at that moment. He could continue protecting himself alone, or he could do what was right. Not out of heroism, but because he realized his own career depended on taking down Blake before the corruption bomb exploded in everyone's face, destroying those nearby too. We'll do this together, he said. The right way. You will appear at the meeting with him. As a consultant, I will introduce you officially. Full name, real resume, and a portfolio of your true work. Blake will have to face you, and when he tries to humiliate you again, you will have the power to respond. What if he recognizes me as the cleaner? Even better, we'll sue him for workplace discrimination if he uses that against you. But the biggest bomb was still missing. 8th large reversal. Number 2. Elena, investigating the falsified audit documents Daniel provided more deeply, discovered something even more devastating. Excavating old, deleted emails that she recovered using simple forensic software, a skill learned in 2007. She found proof that Blake had not merely approved defective software for a kickback. He consciously knew the software had critical flaws. Nexus Solutions, his cousin Felix's company, had sent an internal report 3 weeks before the contract closing, warning of known bugs requiring 6 more months of development. Blake had deleted the email. He falsified the technical audit report, presenting invented 98% stability numbers to the board when the reality was 63% with known critical failures. Why? Because if he signed the contract before the fiscal quarter ended, he would earn a personal bonus of $25,000 for strategic closure. He sacrificed the company's operational security, risking $10 million contracts, to pocket $25,000 plus the $75,000 kickback from his cousin. White-collar crime, administrative fraud, irrefutable documentary evidence. With this in hand, Elena had real power, but also a dilemma. Exposing this information now meant risking the company's collapse, as investors might abandon it upon realizing the level of corruption in the leadership. Innocent employees would lose jobs. Julia would lose the tuition Elena barely managed to pay. She needed to present not just the problem, but the complete solution. She needed to save the company by destroying only Blake. In the last 2 weeks before the audit scheduled for Monday, July 6th, Elena assembled 2 dossiers. An official one, a complete technical analysis of the systemic failures, a step-by-step recovery plan, financial projections for return to stability, her resume proving her qualifications, international certifications, and speaking records. Everything professionally formatted, with colorful charts that investors would like to see. A secret one, explosive documentation of Blake's fraud, recovered emails, bank transfers, original and falsified reports side by side, timeline of the corruption, names of accomplices, including Felix Sterling and 2 managers from Nexus Solutions. The plan was risky. Present the first dossier at a normal pre-audit meeting, allow Daniel to present it as independent external consulting work, forcing Blake to react. Then, at the moment of the real audit with investors present, reveal not only her identity but the second dossier, exposing all the rot. She needed a public stage, powerful witnesses, and perfect timing. The last few days were total physical exhaustion. Elena slept 2 hours a night. Julia found her mother passed out on the sofa one Saturday dawn, documents scattered, a public library laptop open. She had borrowed it using Julia's card. "Mom, what's going on? What are these documents?" Elena woke up startled. "Honey, it's work. Cleaning work doesn't involve technical reports." Julia picked up some sheets. She read, "Semiconductors, algorithms, code." "Mom, what are you doing?" Elena no longer had the strength to lie. She sat on the sofa, and she told her everything. The previous life as an engineer, the unfair firing, the humiliating return, the 15 years of silence, the humiliation of March, the plan, the alliance with Daniel, the imminent confrontation. Julia cried. She hugged her mother. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I didn't want you to see me as a failure. I wanted to be strong." "You are strong, Mom. You're the strongest person I know. And you are going to destroy that bastard." It was the hug Elena needed, the validation from the only person whose opinion truly mattered. Monday, July 6th. Audit day. Elena woke up at 3 a.m. Not out of habit, out of pure anxiety. Julia woke up with her, prepared strong coffee, helped her mother get ready. Beneath the cleaner's uniform, Elena wore a simple navy blue blouse she had bought secondhand at a thrift store, black tailored pants from her legacy systems days, low polished shoes, graying hair loose for the first time in years, carefully styled, a discreet peach lipstick. Julia looked at her mother and smiled through tears. "You look beautiful. You look like the executive in the old photos." Elena looked at herself in the small bathroom mirror, the tired face, the deep wrinkles around her eyes, the calloused hands. But her eyes shone with sharp intelligence, crystalline purpose, a determination that no uniform could hide anymore. "Today I return," she whispered to herself. "Elena Rodriguez returns. Are you feeling the tension? This woman is about to change everything. If you want to see justice served, leave your like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon because the revenge is coming hard. Comment, justice. Let's fill the comments with that word. Elena arrived at Apex Strategy Group at 5 a.m. as always. She greeted Mr. Jean. Big day today, Elena? He asked, noticing something different in her posture. Big day, she confirmed. She went up to the 23rd floor, stored the uniform in a service locker, changed her clothes, pinned her hair into an elegant bun, grabbed the document briefcase she had carried in a tote bag. At 9 a.m., the investors arrived. Dr. Margaret Stein led the group. A 60-year-old woman, completely white hair cut short, expensive framed glasses, a gray suit, the expression of someone who had built a fortune with intelligence, not luck. With her, Mr. Albert Carver, a serious 60-something with a gray beard, bald, a traditional investor. Dr. Luke Morrison, 40-something, technology specialist, former programmer turned venture capitalist. Mrs. Patricia Lowe, elegant 50-something, corporate lawyer representing the International Fund. For people who controlled Apex Strategy Group's destiny, and therefore for 100 jobs. Blake welcomed them in the lobby with an overly confident smile, gesturing as he explained the revolutionary solutions implemented in recent months. Light gray Italian suit, silk tie, gold cufflinks, the attire of well-dressed lies. He led them to the main conference room, the very one where he had humiliated Elena in March, an irony she didn't waste. At 9:30, Daniel began the presentation. Giant screen, graphs of operational recovery, technical analyses of the identified and corrected problems, financial projections for a return to profitability in 8 months. Everything was extraordinarily competent. The investors asked sharp questions. Dr. Margaret especially. The system recovery happened too quickly for a normal internal team. Who did this work? External consulting. Blake opened his mouth to take credit again. It was a reflex at that point, but Daniel interrupted him. It was specialized consulting, yes, but I'd like to introduce the person responsible personally. Blake frowned. Daniel, what are you talking about? The door opened. Elena walked in. She was no longer wearing a cleaner's uniform. Navy blue blouse, black pants, hair loose, dignified. She carried an old but clean leather brief. She walked with her spine straight, a posture she had forgotten under the weight of trash bags. All eyes rotated, confused. Blake studied her with narrowed eyes, slow recognition burning like a striking match. You, he began, his voice choked. You're the cleaner. I was, Elena corrected, her voice firm and clear for the first time in 15 years within those walls. And before that, I was a senior analyst for this company. From 2004 to 2012, before you arrived. 9th large reversal. Number 3, a deathly silence. 10 people in the room. No one breathed. Elena walked to the head of the table opposite Blake. She placed the brief on the table. She looked each investor in the eye one by one. My name is Elena Rodriguez. Systems engineer, graduated from MIT. Postgraduate degree in software architecture. I worked at this company when it was called Legacy Systems Incorporated. I was unfairly laid off in the 2012 restructuring. I returned 6 years later as an outsourced cleaning employee because I needed to survive. And for the last 6 months, I have been the one who saved this company from total collapse. Blake thundered. This is insane. This woman is mentally disturbed. She's just a cleaner who... Elena cut him off with a razor-sharp voice. Who developed all the technical solutions you presented to the board as your own. Who sent detailed analyses via anonymous email. Who identified the central algorithm failure in 3 seconds just by looking at that screen in March, when USCR aimed at me that I knew nothing. She opened the brief. She distributed copies of documents to each investor. Here are original technical reports I wrote between 2007 and 2011. With my signature, company stamps, verifiable dates. Here are certificates from international courses I completed, funded by Legacy. Here are photos from conferences where I lectured as the company's official representative. Dr. Margaret put on reading glasses. She examined everything with an indecipherable expression. She passed documents to Albert, who compared them with digital records on his tablet. Luke studied the technical reports with an increasingly impressed expression. Patricia cross-referenced information on her laptop. "I remember you," Dr. Margaret said slowly, taking off her glasses. "The Adaptive Technology Conference in 2009. And Hemby Convention Center, original location reference kept for context, adapted to focus on technical content. You lectured on self-correcting recursive systems. It was one of the best presentations I saw that year. I was just starting to invest in technology then. I kept your reference material." Elena felt the ground return beneath her feet. "Yes, I lectured at that conference." "How does such a qualified woman become a cleaner at her own company?" Patricia asked, her voice confused and indignant. "Because I was laid off at 43 in a restructuring that prioritized image over competence. Because I am a 58-year-old black woman and the job market closes doors in my face. Because I needed to survive. And because no one really looks at cleaners. We are invisible, useful only as long as we clean and stay silent." Blake turned purple. This is a pathetic attempt at corporate sabotage. She wants money, a fraudulent settlement. Don't believe this manipulative story." Daniel stood up. "It's not a story. It's the truth. And I can confirm it. Elena was my mentor in 2009 when I was an intern. I recognized her by the code she wrote, by the methodology. I have copies of all the work she developed over the last few months. She is the external observer who saved this company, not the CEO." Blake pointed a trembling finger. "You are betraying the company. You are conspiring with a cleaning employee. I am protecting the company. From you." 10th and final reversal. Elena took a deep breath. It was now or never. She picked up the second brief. The nuclear bomb. "But I didn't come here just to prove my competence. I came to expose the true reason for the crisis that nearly bankrupted this company. And the real culprit." Blake turned pale. "What are you talking about?" Elena distributed the second set of documents. Blake Sterling consciously approved defective software supplied by Nexus Solutions, a company owned by his cousin, Felix Sterling. Here are the original emails between them. Here, the $75,000 bank transfer disguised as Strategic Management Consulting to Blake's personal account. Here, the original technical report from Nexus warning of critical flaws, and beside it, the falsified report Blake presented to the board, inventing stability numbers. The heir left the room. Albert stood up, reading the document with bulging eyes. This is administrative fraud. White-collar crime. Disguised kickbacks." Luke finished, his voice icy. "And falsification of a technical audit. If this is true, it's not just termination. It's legal prosecution. Prison time." Blake tried to speak and failed. He opened and closed his mouth like a fish out of water. Finally, "She forged these documents. She hacked the system. This is revenge from a resentful employee." Patricia held up her laptop. The metadata on the emails shows dates from 2022, long before this audit. And the banking records are official, confirmed by the bank system. There's no way to forge this. Dr. Margaret stood up. Her voice was low, controlled, but contained the fury of someone who realized they had been deceived. "We invested $18 million in this company trusting your leadership. You not only failed, but you committed active fraud. You jeopardized contracts, and you let this woman..." She pointed respectfully at Elena. "Work as a cleaner while anonymously saving it, only to steal the credit for her work." She looked at Albert and Patricia. "This audit meeting ends now. Tomorrow there will be an extraordinary board session. Blake Sterling, you are suspended from all executive functions immediately. Hand over your credentials and devices. Regulatory authorities will be contacted. And I strongly suggest you hire a criminal defense lawyer." Blake tried to argue, but Albert cut him off. "Marcus Sterling will be informed. Your investor uncle. If he tries to protect you, we will sue both of you." 2 security guards entered. Daniel had called them beforehand, prepared for this outcome. Blake was escorted out, shouting empty threats that no one listened to anymore. Final confrontation. The 5 phases. Phase 1, adversary's attack. Blake tried to disqualify Elena based on her humble background, calling her mentally disturbed, attempting to use the fact that she was a cleaner as a weapon. But the weapon exploded in his hand. Phase 2, protagonist's response. Elena presented not emotion, but cold evidence. Documents, dates, photos, verifiable records. She dismantled the lie with methodology, not shouting. Phase 3, impartial validation. Dr. Margaret Stein, a neutral and respected authority, publicly confirmed Elena's competence. External validation that completely broke Blake's narrative. Phase 4, exposure. Elena revealed the corruption with irrefutable proof. She exposed not only Blake but the complete scheme, protocols, and accomplices. Phase 5, verdict. Immediate suspension. Contacting authorities. Blake escorted out as a criminal, not an executive. The room remained silent after his forced departure. Only the investors, Daniel and Elena, remained. Dr. Margaret turned. Elena Rodriguez, you have 1 hour to grab lunch and collect your thoughts. Then, come back here. We need to discuss your future. A future that, I guarantee, will not involve cleaning. The consequences unfolded like falling dominoes. Blake was removed. He filed a wrongful termination suit, but the evidence was irrefutable. He was subsequently prosecuted for corporate fraud and corruption. He faced heavy fines of $500,000, an IRS investigation into suspicious transactions. His investor uncle, Marcus Sterling, publicly disowned him to protect his own reputation. Blake never secured executive work again. Last rumor. He sold real estate at a low-tier agency in Greenwich. His sports cars sold to pay lawyers. Felix Sterling of Nexus Solutions was also prosecuted. The company went bankrupt. He disappeared. Rumors said he had fled to Central America. Apex Strategy Group underwent a deep clean. Several complicit or incompetent directors were replaced. A complete external audit. Implementation of ethics committees. Camila Diaz, the CFO, took over as interim CEO, competent and honest. Elena received a formal offer 3 days later. Senior systems consultant. 2-year contract. Salary of $18,000 monthly. More than she earned even during her analyst days. Her own office. Support team. But she negotiated something more valuable than money. The creation of a rehiring and valorization program for employees prematurely retired during previous restructurings, especially women and people of color systematically pushed out. There are other Elenas out there, she told Dr. Margaret. Competent people who were discarded and forgotten. I don't want my victory to be individual. I want structural change. Dr. Margaret approved. The program was implemented. 15 former employees of the old Legacy Systems Incorporated were contacted. 8 returned to fairly compensated technical positions. 3 had passed away, or refused due to trauma, but 8 returned. Among them, Mariana Cooper, a 62-year-old black programmer who worked as a supermarket cashier. Jose Hernandez, a 50-year-old engineer who drove for Uber. Elena also started teaching evening classes at a technical school in Bushwick, teaching programming and systems to underserved youths. Twice a week. Free. Because she remembered what it was like to have talent but no open doors. Julia graduated with honors in administration. She secured a job at Apex Strategy Group itself, in the newly created Corporate Social Responsibility Department, helping implement the diversity program her mother had idealized. 6 months later, December, Apex Strategy Group's end-of-year party in the 23rd floor ballroom. Elena arrived at 7 p.m., not via the service elevator, through the main lobby, not in the navy blue uniform, but in a simple dark blue dress Julia had bought for her. Hair loose, gray and dignified, comfortable shoes, a silver necklace that had belonged to her mother. She walked through the ballroom where 400 people were celebrating. Employees greeted her with genuine respect. Not the condescending invisibility reserved for cleaners, but the recognition professional entities deserve. Mr. Jean was there, a special guest. He hugged her. "Elena, what pride. I always knew you were special." She found Daniel talking with the new technical team. They exchanged a look of complicity. Unlikely allies who saved a company and themselves. Camila Diaz, the interim CEO, soon to be permanent, gave a speech. "This year we learned about integrity, about recognizing talent wherever it may be, not just where we expect to find it. About the importance of seeing people, not job titles. Elena Rodriguez taught us all of this." "Thank you." Applause. Elena didn't cry. She didn't need to anymore. There were tears that fell from humiliation, and tears that didn't fall because recovered dignity burned so brightly that it dried everything up. One morning in January of the following year, Elena walked through the entrance hall of the mirrored tower, now arriving at 9 a.m., not 5, and saw her image reflected in the dark glass facade. A respected professional walking with her head held high. No longer the invisible silhouette in the blue uniform. No longer the woman waiting for crumbs of recognition, but the true Elena Rodriguez, the engineer, the mentor, the survivor, the fighter. And she thought of the number of women still invisible at that exact moment. In offices, hospitals, schools, homes, corporate buildings, carrying immense talents that the world refused to see because they came packaged in dark skin, cheap uniforms, peripheral accents, gray hair that society had decided to discard. She thought of them, and she felt responsibility. Elena's legacy was not just technical. It was living proof that no attempt to erase a person can completely destroy their essence. That dignity is not lost with title or uniform. That injustice is not an unchangeable destiny. That justice, sometimes, needs to be won with strategic patience, meticulous intelligence, and the courage to reveal oneself at the right moment. That true power is not in shouting the loudest, but in knowing exactly when to break the silence. That a cleaner can be an engineer can be a cleaner, but the person, the essence, the knowledge, the strength, remains intact beneath whatever clothes the world forces them to wear to survive. Elena's story spread discreetly through the corporate hallways of Midtown. It didn't make newspaper headlines. These corrected injustices rarely do. The powerful protect their own scandals. But it became a whispered legend among invisible employees, especially black women who cleaned rooms where million-dollar decisions were made, especially discarded people who needed to believe the game wasn't over yet. It became silent inspiration for those who were once pushed to the margin and refused to completely give up swimming back. And it became an uncomfortable reminder to arrogant executives. Be careful who you scorn as they pass unnoticed, because the person who knows nothing might be exactly the one who knows everything, and is just waiting for the right moment to prove it. And you? How many times have you judged someone by the clothes they wore, the job they did, their age, or the color of their skin? How many times have you failed to see a complete human being because society taught you to categorize people into boxes of value? This story is about Elena, but it's about all the Elenas out there. Invisible, discarded, underestimated, waiting for a chance, an opportunity, a moment to be seen for who they truly are. If the story touched you, if you believe in justice, in dignity, in giving a voice to the invisible, then leave your like on this video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon because we bring real stories of overcoming every week. Stories that need to be told, that need to be heard, that celebrate the strength of ordinary people doing extraordinary things against all odds. Share this video with someone who needs inspiration today, with someone who feels invisible, with someone who doubts their own worth. Because sometimes, a story is all we need to remember that we are not alone, that the fight is worth it, that we can win. And in the comments, write to me, "I see you." 3 simple words, but powerful, because it means you understood, that you see the Elenas around you, that you commit to looking beyond appearances. Right? I see you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. Thank you for being part of this community that believes in justice and dignity for all. Until the next video. And remember, everyone has a story. Make sure you truly see people before judging them. Disclaimer. This is a fictional narrative created for entertainment and social reflection purposes. Any resemblance to real people, companies, or situations is purely coincidental. The names, locations, and events are fictional. The goal is to inspire reflection on themes such as workplace discrimination, valuing talent regardless of social origin, and the importance of looking beyond appearances. This channel does not promote, endorse, or encourage any form of illegal action, including unauthorized system access, document falsification, or any other criminal conduct. All character actions should be interpreted within the fictional context of the narrative.